Child Protective Services and how that works, Title 4D and 4E. 4D is the child support enforcement, 4E is the federal funding for foster care and child protective services that we have. You want to talk about a system that's crazy. Go on the internet and pull up Title 4D and Title 4E and read them. I read them both. You talk about the tail wagging the dog. I couldn't believe that we've got federal legislators that would write things in this manner and thinking that they wouldn't end up corrupting the system. When you pay people to create non-custodial parents, which Title 4D does, pays states to create non-custodial parents and jack up as much child support as possible so they can get funding and keep their jobs and perpetuate themselves. Title 4E, Child Protective Services, foster care, child placement, bonus money. I couldn't believe it. You read this stuff, it's like, what are these people thinking? They trust government so much that they were going to create a system that has initiates taking. I read one story where a guy with a child in a small county, Child Protective Services, the court would create a non-custodial parent, a low-income non-custodial parent, and then give this information right over to Child Protective Services. I downloaded off the internet the Child Protective Services intake sheet. And they have a point system. If you read the point system, they can charge a young mother, typically young mother, with neglect and take their children from them without that ever being any proof of neglect in the first place. Nothing substantiated. All they got to have to be is young, single, poor, and have people complain about it. Never ever substantiated, just having complaints being filed. I couldn't believe that this is actually how they do these things. Then it's up to this Child Protective Services caseworker to decide these things based on their interpretation of how it's going on. And that, once you take the child, then you have a process of being adjudicated, but the child's gone. You've disrupted this family. Taking that child and placing them in foster care. I couldn't believe how much money they're paying foster care parents. I couldn't believe it. $10,000 a year for each child placed. 2, 3, 4 kids. If you have 4 kids placed in your home, guess what? You got a nice middle class income going on there. Boom. Plus you get money for holidays and for clothing. And then if you have a young baby taken and placed and then adopted out, they get money for that. State gets money for placement, adoptions out of foster care. I couldn't believe it, how the system's working, and that there's not a family first. Right now we're looking to put family first legislation through in our state. You would think that would be a no-brainer, that you wouldn't take a child out of their family and say, give it to a stranger when there's a grandmother willing and able. Why should somebody, a grandmother or aunt, have to prove fitness in order to take a grandchild into their life? That's not the way it is in Michigan.